The year is 2025, a year that will be remembered in history for its unprecedented events. Tensions between the United States and Russia have reached a boiling point, escalating beyond diplomatic disputes and economic sanctions. Decades of mistrust and animosity have culminated in the unthinkable, a full-scale U.S. invasion of Russian territory. The world watches in shock as military forces mobilize. This scenario, once confined to the realm of Cold War paranoia and dystopian fiction, now dominates headlines and grips the world in fear. The echoes of past conflicts reverberate through the present. The very notion of two nuclear-armed superpowers engaging in direct conflict is terrifying. The specter of nuclear war looms large, casting a shadow over global stability. The potential consequences are almost too grave to comprehend. Cities could be reduced to rubble, and countless lives could be lost in the blink of an eye. Yet, understanding the dynamics of such a conflict, however improbable, is crucial in today's volatile geopolitical landscape. The intricate web of alliances and enmities must be navigated with care. This essay will explore the hypothetical scenario of a U.S. invasion of Russia. It will analyze the strategic, political, and humanitarian implications of such an event. It will delve into the potential causes of such a conflict, examining the historical grievances and contemporary triggers that could lead to war, the formidable challenges faced by any invading force, including the harsh Russian winter and the vast, unforgiving terrain, and the devastating consequences for both nations and the world. The human cost of such a conflict would be immeasurable, with millions displaced and economies shattered. Ultimately, this analysis aims to highlight the futility of such a conflict and emphasize the urgent need for diplomacy and peaceful coexistence. The path to peace is fraught with challenges, but it is the only viable option. The stakes have never been higher. The decisions made in the coming days will shape the future of our world for generations to come. A U.S. invasion of Russia is highly improbable. The geopolitical landscape and the balance of power between these two nuclear-armed nations make such an event almost unthinkable. The costs and risks for both nations are simply too high. The economic, human, and political toll would be catastrophic, not just for the U.S. and Russia, but for the entire world. However, understanding the potential triggers for such a conflict is crucial. By identifying these triggers, we can better prepare and hopefully prevent any escalation. One possible scenario involves a Russian attack on a NATO member state, triggering Article 5 of the NATO treaty and compelling the U.S. to intervene militarily. This would be a direct challenge to the NATO alliance and could lead to a large-scale conflict. Another possibility is a miscalculation or accident, such as a border clash, escalating into a full-blown war. Small incidents can quickly spiral out of control, especially in tense regions. Cyberwarfare, disinformation campaigns, and proxy conflicts could also contribute to a spiral of escalation, culminating in direct military confrontation. These modern forms of warfare can be just as dangerous as traditional military engagements. While a deliberate, unprovoked invasion by either side is highly unlikely, the potential for miscalculation and unintended escalation remains a serious concern. Diplomatic channels must remain open to manage these risks. The complex web of alliances, historical grievances, and ideological differences creates a volatile mix, demanding constant vigilance and a commitment to dialogue. Only through continuous diplomatic efforts and mutual understanding can we hope to maintain peace and stability in such a precarious global environment. Any U.S. invasion of Russia would face formidable obstacles. Russia's vast size and unforgiving terrain have historically proven to be a nightmare for invaders. From Napoleon's Grande Armée to Hitler's Wehrmacht, history is littered with examples of armies swallowed whole by the vast Russian landscape. Beyond geography, Russia possesses a powerful military, equipped with advanced weaponry and a doctrine emphasizing defense. Its nuclear arsenal, the largest in the world, acts as a significant deterrent against any large-scale attack. Furthermore, the Russian population, imbued with a strong sense of patriotism and historical memory, would likely mount fierce resistance against any foreign invasion. The combination of these factors makes a successful U.S. invasion of Russia highly unlikely. Looming over any potential conflict between the U.S. and Russia is the specter of nuclear war. Both nations possess thousands of nuclear warheads capable of unimaginable destruction. The use of even a small fraction of these weapons would have catastrophic consequences not only for the belligerents but for the entire planet. The concept of mutually assured destruction, MAD, has long served as a deterrent against nuclear war. However, the risk of miscalculation, accident, or escalation control failure cannot be ignored. The very existence of nuclear weapons poses an existential threat to humanity, making their elimination a moral and strategic imperative. In the context of a US-Russia war, the potential for nuclear escalation would be a constant and terrifying reality, casting a dark shadow over any conventional military operations. A war between the United States and Russia would have profound and far-reaching consequences for the entire international order. Alliances would be tested as nations are forced to choose sides. The global economy would be thrown into chaos, with trade disrupted and financial markets in free fall. The conflict would likely spill over into other regions, exacerbating existing tensions and potentially igniting new conflicts. The international institutions designed to maintain peace and security, such as the United Nations, would be rendered largely ineffective in the face of such a cataclysmic event. The world would be divided, with countries forced to navigate a new geopolitical landscape defined by conflict and uncertainty. The post-World War II order already under strain would crumble, ushering in an era of instability and potential chaos. Section 6. The human cost, suffering on an unprecedented scale. Beyond the geopolitical ramifications, the human cost of a US-Russia war would be immeasurable. The devastation would extend far beyond the battlefield, affecting countless innocent lives. Millions, perhaps tens of millions of civilians would perish in the fighting, victims of conventional weapons, potential nuclear exchanges, and the indiscriminate destruction that follows. The ensuing chaos and societal collapse would lead to a breakdown of law and order, with people struggling to survive in a world turned upside down. Refugee crises of unprecedented scale would engulf neighboring countries and the world. Millions would be forced to flee their homes, seeking safety and shelter wherever they could find it. The global economy would be devastated, leading to widespread poverty, unemployment, and a collapse of financial systems. The ripple effects would be felt in every corner of the globe. Famine and disease would spread rapidly, exacerbated by the lack of medical supplies and infrastructure. The most vulnerable populations would suffer the most. The social fabric of entire societies would be torn apart, with communities shattered and families separated. The emotional and psychological toll would be immense, leaving behind a legacy of trauma and suffering for generations to come. The scars of war would be deeply ingrained in the collective memory of humanity. The war would not be confined to battlefields. It would infiltrate homes, schools, and workplaces, disrupting every aspect of daily life. It would penetrate every aspect of human existence, creating an environment of constant fear and uncertainty. Leaving no corner of the globe untouched by its devastation, the conflict would spark worldwide protests and a desperate call for peace. The sheer scale of human suffering would be difficult to comprehend, with humanitarian aid efforts struggling to keep up with the overwhelming need. A stark reminder of the ultimate cost of war, the destruction of cultural heritage and the loss of countless lives would serve as a somber testament to the horrors of conflict. Section 7. Pyrrhic victory or mutual destruction. The impossibility of winning. In a conflict between the US and Russia, there would be no winners. Both sides possess the military capabilities to inflict unimaginable damage on each other. Even if one side were to achieve a nominal military victory, it would be a Pyrrhic victory, achieved at an astronomical cost. The use of nuclear weapons, even on a limited scale, would render the very notion of victory meaningless. The environmental, economic, and social consequences of such a conflict would be felt for generations, leaving both nations and the world severely weakened. The very concept of winning in such a scenario is illusory. The only rational course of action is to avoid such a conflict altogether. Section 8. Lessons from history, avoiding the abyss. History is replete with examples of the horrors of war. From the trenches of World War I to the atomic bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki, the past century has provided stark warnings about the human capacity for destruction. The Cold War, despite its tensions and proxy conflicts, ultimately demonstrated the importance of dialogue, diplomacy, and arms control in managing superpower rivalry. The lessons learned during that era remain relevant today. The avoidance of nuclear war, the pursuit of diplomacy over military solutions, and the recognition of our shared humanity are not merely idealistic notions, but essential principles for survival in the 21st century. Section 9. The path forward. Diplomacy, not destruction. The hypothetical scenario of a U.S. invasion of Russia underscores the urgent need for a renewed commitment to peace and diplomacy. While differences and areas of competition will inevitably exist between nations, they must be addressed through dialogue, cooperation, and a recognition of our shared interests. Investing in diplomacy, strengthening international institutions, promoting cultural exchange, and fostering people-to-people ties are essential steps in building a more peaceful and secure world. The alternative, as this analysis has shown, is too catastrophic to contemplate. The path forward is clear. Diplomacy, not destruction, must guide our actions. The future of humanity may very well depend on it.